No, I'm going to have you start with a clap.
A clap, and then
Three claps.
3 claps, because we don't have one of those boards, And then just welcome, should I say welcome back to Broken and Brilliant?
No, just go ahead and do it like,
That's what I used to say.
okay, then say it.
Like I said, it's been 2.5 years. Oh my goodness. Yeah, so I'll be the nervous one at first till you start talking, and then I'll be fine. Blah! Okay.
I think it's like that whole idea of, okay, like this is an hour. I'm like, what am I going to talk about for an hour?
Yeah, don't think of it as an hour. We're going to do 20 to 25 minutes first, and then we're going to cut, and then we're going to start again. So I just want you to be able to share your story in 20 to 25 minutes. Does that sound like something you can do?
Yeah.
Okay.
Are you going to ask me questions in between, or you want me to just start talking?
I'll have you start talking, and then I might interrupt you once in a while or whatever, and just say, tell me a little bit more about that, or something. But it'll mostly be you. God help me with my voice here, because this drives me crazy. My voice is like all dry, and it just cuts out here and there, and it drives me crazy. Yeah, go ahead. Say what you're going to say.
Well, so from like start to like where I am now, like my story of like,
Why don't you share your ugly story first,
okay,
and we'll see how far we get. And then the second podcast can kind of be how you came out of this, where you're at now, and what you're moving into. Does that sound okay? All right. All right. You ready, Bren? Okay. So 3 claps. Sorry. Hi, and welcome back to Broken and Brilliant with Carrie O'Toole Ministries. I'm Carrie O'Toole, and I am so excited today to be joined by my friend Naci Littlejohn. We met just, 2 months ago, Naci? Yeah, in Dallas at this event that we'll talk about at some point. But Naci has an amazing story, and I was so intrigued with it. I thought we have got to share this story. So, Naci, I know this is the first time you've ever shared this on a podcast. Is that correct?
yes, that is correct. This is the first time. Basically, this is the first time for me to share it outside of just sharing it one on one with somebody that's in my life and whoever God's like led me to share it with.
Right,
This is completely
right.
new to me.
Well, for those of you who are watching, you just pretend you're sitting in on a one-on-one conversation with Naci, because we want to make you feel comfortable, and I want you to just be able to share. I actually have never heard your full story, so I'm really excited to hear it. So why don't you just go ahead and start? Tell us kind of how all of this began.
Okay, so first of all, let me just fill you in on my childhood a little bit. I am one of 9 children.
Wow.
My parents had 8 girls and 1 boy, and I am the third oldest. And so I, growing up, like we went to church. I asked Jesus into my heart at 8 years old, and I knew about Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
I knew the Bible stories, but that was the extent. Like we went to church every Sunday, and so I knew about him, but I didn't know him or have a relationship with him because I didn't even know what I didn't know. And so
Right.
that's the backstory of my extent on just my upbringing. And so being one of 8 girls, the enemy really attacked my identity as like I didn't know who I was, and I looked up and adored my 2 older sisters, and the enemy attacked me with comparison and orphan spirit. So coming into my teenage years, I looked at my older sisters, and they were popular. They were beautiful. They had so much attention. They were good at sports. I, on the other hand, in junior high, tried out for sports and I didn't make the team. Okay, so
That was me with cheerleading. Yes.
So it's like I made manager of the volleyball team, and so that was me coming into my teenage years, and feeling not seen, not measuring up
Right.
to this, and so um, I and my parents, who are amazing, had rules for us because they were great parents. And I would see these other people who didn't have any rules, but to me, I just thought my parents were trying to be a fun sponge, and I my view of it. And so, come when I turned 15, and I know I'm like kind of like fast forwarding, but I'm just trying to
No,
get
that's
to that.
great. Yeah.
That was just a preface to what I'm about to share. And so I'm 15. I'm a sophomore in high school at this time, and like to get attention in junior high, I would do silly stuff like pass myself out. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, but you would like pass yourselves out. I would do it to get attention.
Like
It was ridiculous.
making yourself pass out. Okay.
Yes, and like I would do these ridiculous stuff just to get attention, which is
Mm-hmm.
like so, like I just and so coming into that, like I hadn't like been exposed to a lot. I was very sheltered, which was
Mm-hmm.
great. So I'm a sophomore in high school. I did make cheerleading. That was like something that was uh so I'm in cheerleading, and I'm like, oh, this is great. Like I'm on the, you get seen,
You
and
made it.
thinking, oh, I'm making it, and so I'm like starting to be, I was at a huge high school. I think there was like 600 or 700 in my
Mm-hmm.
grade,
Mm-hmm.
and so I was trying to figure out which group I fit into, and I get invited to go to this party, and my parents told me I couldn't go, and so
You went.
and it was like the
Mm-hmm.
perfect storm
Mm.
happened. I sneak out and I go, and I get handed a drink when I get there, and it was laced with something,
Mm-hmm.
and so I end up getting assaulted this night,
Mm.
and this was the start. I had never had any. I was
Mm.
a virgin until this point. Like I had
Mm.
never had any
Mm.
contact with like anyone, and I get assaulted this night, and the
Wow.
enemy goes after my voice from this moment on in all my this is where he started taking my voice. He said, "You
Mm-hmm.
can't tell anybody.
Mm.
You weren't even supposed to be there." And just like and like I'm not gonna share the details, but I didn't.
Yeah.
It was, and I didn't find out who it was till late. Like I was just like, "What just happened? Like who was that?" Like it was just like, this fog,
Shock and shame and yeah.
shock, shame, embarrassment, guilt. Like I wasn't supposed to be there. And so,
Right.
and honestly, this is my first time to share this publicly because this
Mm-hmm.
is a part that I tend to leave out. Because I'm like, why do people need to know that about
Yeah.
me? Like, that's a personal, private thing. But I just feel like the Lord's really showed me this week that I do need to open up because
Yeah.
people need to receive freedom in this area.
Yeah.
Because I feel like it doesn't get talked about.
Well, and I want to say, just as you share that, I feel honored, and I feel the weightiness of it, to hold that with you.
Yes.
So thank you for sharing that.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. And so, yeah, like I'm getting a little emotional because I'm like, oh
Mm-hmm.
my gosh, I cannot believe I just said that. But
Yeah.
anyway, the Lord's really showed me this week. No, it's okay to talk about this part of my story. And so, anyways, I just like became inside. I was just so lost. I didn't know who I was,
Mm-hmm.
and I just didn't know my identity, and so I kind of like lost some self-respect for myself,
Sure.
and I started finding my people kind of, and they were the ones giving me attention were people who were in darkness doing drugs, and so from that time, from that part, I got into drugs,
Mm-hmm.
and I started using drugs, and I was using them every day. It started with marijuana, and then it turned into more uppers,
Mm-hmm.
and from that, like I started dating drug dealers,
Mm-hmm.
and by this time I'm like a senior in high school, and I'm a functioning addict though. So all this time,
Nobody knows.
no, I'm like hiding it, and in my mind, I know it's so twisted, but it was like a game. I'm like, nobody knows. This is great. I can do this, and like I like felt confident, like this, like it was a false confidence.
Mm-hmm.
It was a counterfeit, but it still made me feel it made me feel bold and confident.
Sure.
Which is who God created me to be, but the enemy, showed me that it was the drugs that were making me feel that way.
Right.
And that's, and so I'm doing drugs, and I'm a senior in high school, and by this time I was kicked off of cheerleading because I was caught at a party, and so I'm like, all this stuff that I like thought had got me made, and my friends, I think McIntyre says, and I'm probably quoting it wrong, but he says, you are who you hang out with, so look at who you're hanging out with, and that's who you become in 5 years. Well,
Yeah.
who I was hanging out with, everyone was doing drugs. Everyone was like in lonely, and these not outcasts, but just like we were all searching, we were all lost, we were all wanting to be seen and known and heard, and it was just like this little community of us who were doing drugs, and it just
screaming, notice me. Yeah.
yeah, and we all just were so empty inside.
Mm-hmm.
And so by this time, I was my senior year, and I kind of just quit going home, and my parents were so good to me. They just cared so deeply that they got an apartment for my sisters. My two older sisters at this point were out of high school, and so they said go stay with them, so they knew where I was at night. And so I'm there, and I graduate high school, and I'm just by this time I'm doing meth. I'm like on meth, staying up for days, but I'm a functioning addict, and so I wind up when I'm 18. I'm at a party, and I meet this man named Josh, who was 23 at the time, and we start hanging out. We're just friends at the time, but he's doing drugs too. He's in Dartmouth too, so we're just hanging out doing drugs. And I wind up in a relationship with him, and I end up pregnant. And the enemy, the voice in my head, which I didn't know the voice of God. So all this time, there's this voice in my head that you can't say anything. Your parents can't handle this. In reality, my parents always welcomed me with open arms, and so it was just the lies of the enemy, which like I'm so I meet I'm still doing drugs, and I wind up pregnant, and so at this point, like the lie was your parents can't handle this, and your baby's going to be addicted to drugs. You can't bring this baby into the world. You're being selfish. These were all the things that the enemy was telling me in my head.
Wow.
And I grew up in church, and I knew better.
Yeah.
Like I'm pro-life. Like I am pro-life, and that's like, and I find myself in this clinic in Albuquerque, and it was just one of the worst decisions of my life.
Yeah.
And so the second I leave that place, the enemy tells me, he said, you're not gonna have children. You killed your baby. You're gonna have cancer. Just filling me with more life. And so it just got me in this deeper hole to where I didn't even want to live. And I didn't even care at this point. Like I just was, I was so addicted to the drugs at this time that I couldn't get out of bed without it.
Yeah.
I would be physically sick. Like it wasn't for the high, it was my body.
Right.
Was addicted
the
to
physical addiction. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I didn't even want to be doing them at this point. But I couldn't get out of I couldn't get out of bed, and I like so I find myself just getting deeper and deeper, like in this hole, and people would tell me, Naci, you're better than this, and but I just was lost,
Stuck.
So
Yeah.
I was stuck, and so I end up getting in this ring where shipments were coming and unloaded in my garage, and I could take whatever I wanted. And so this is where I'm at in my life. I'm like rock bottom.
Mm-hmm.
And they're getting unloaded in my house, and they're like, take what you want, it's yours. And I this is the moment that something shifted. I saw a vision, and I didn't know it was the Lord. I mean, I didn't know it was the Lord at the time.
Right.
But I saw like this path that I was heading down.
Mm.
And it was like basically I was going to jail. And this other path was this path that was intended for my life. And it was just so full of life. And I was like, that's what I want.
You just had two choices laid out for you.
And it was like in that moment, my addiction was taken from me. And so in that moment, my addiction was taken from me, and I never touched drugs again. And that was over 15 years ago. And so God is so good. And so, but my story didn't stop there. So I'm no longer on drugs, and I'm going to a program called Celebrate Recovery, which was great. But I'm still just like getting knowledge. There's still no relationship. And so I've never shared this story without my husband. The part of like me getting set free, like, and I guess I could go back. So I mentioned earlier that I met a guy, and I got pregnant, and we had an abortion. I didn't know at that time that man would be my husband. Wow. And so he's on his own journey, and everything was in alignment with mine, though. And so the day that I got delivered is the day that his mom had an intervention with him, and he went to rehab. And so we're just still on this path.
This is just like astounding.
And so he's in rehab. Like at this point, I'm just like focusing on my career and on just my walk with the Lord and pouring everything into it, not knowing that I didn't know him. And so I'm still like.
So what does that look like when you say you're pouring everything into this relationship, but you didn't realize you didn't know him? What does that mean?
It means I'm working for my acceptance. It means I'm performing for and I'm working for this love and affection of something I already have. I don't have to work for. I don't have to perform for. And so I go into this performance mode for probably like the next 5-6 years, where I think I have to earn back and work to pay off all the wrongs that I did.
Make up for it all. Yeah.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And so I just am reading my Bible. I'm going to church, and I'm a great employee. And like I'm just like work, performing for all this.
Right.
Not knowing that I'm a daughter and that it's already mine. And so that's where I'm at. And my Josh at the time, and I know I said this, but I feel so weird sharing this without him here. But anyways, he comes back from rehab, and we get married. But we still have a lot of baggage. It was never dealt with. And so we bring that into our marriage. That just stuff that's not, we know we can never talk about the abortion because it just just causes a huge fight.
Right.
And so this is just like weighing on us, but it also is affecting the way I treat him. And so, but it's masked because, I got to share about this. Because it was so the first time was in my garage when I have this vision, but I don't know it's a vision.
Right.
So now, a little bit after that, I'm still like tormented about the abortion. I got set free from drugs, but I'm still tormented, and I will be at certain places, and I will hear Christians talking, "Oh, she had an abortion," and it was just always so
the judgment. Yeah.
The enemy would say, "Oh, you can never speak about. You can never let them know. They won't accept you." And so like it was just constant, and so. Fast forward, I'm married, I'm sitting in church, and This is shortly after we got married. And we're at this church that's not like, at the time, they're not like prophesying over people. It's non-denominational, but it was very unheard of for the pastor to say, "I have a word
Yeah.
for somebody in church," because it was like they're open to the Spirit, but it's just not like, I had never heard him, and I had been going to that church since high school. Have never heard him stop in the middle of service and say, "There's someone in here." And so, like, I'm sitting in service in the back, and he stops in the middle of his sermon, and he says, "There's someone in here who's had an abortion." And I'm like, okay, like, there's probably several people who have, but I like freeze, because it was hard for me to hear that word without just losing it. But I'm like fighting back the tears, because I'm like, people see me crying, they're gonna know. And so, like, all this stuff that's going on in my head. And so I'm sitting there, and he goes, "There's someone in here that's had an abortion, and the Lord wants you to know that he forgives you." And in my head, I go, "But it wasn't me, it was my boyfriend, and I don't want to have cancer, and I just want to have kids." And he said, "The Lord says he forgives you. He knows it wasn't you, it was your boyfriend, and it was the drugs." And everything verbatim, what I say in my head, he's answering. He said, "You will have kids. You will not have cancer. You will be a voice for the unborn." And so I'm like, okay, even if there was other people there in the room, like, I know it was a word for me, because everything in my head, he answered.
So specific.
In the exact order.
Oh my gosh.
I'm like, okay, so I'm like, okay, like, but like, you would think that would have got my attention, like, but I still didn't associate that was.
Well, if you've never heard this before, it's hard.
It brought me comfort, though, in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
And shortly after this, I was pregnant. And so we like, it was like, we get married, the pastor says this shortly after I'm pregnant, and so, like, that's a distraction for a while, like, to mask all, like, this other stuff that was going on inside and between us that we had never dealt with.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have our first son, and then a little bit later, we have another daughter, all the while, like, just all this stuff just still not dealt with.
Yeah.
And so we find ourselves, we moved to Kansas, and because our job relocates, and so we moved to Kansas, and we're trying out churches. We're seeking,
Mm-hmm.
but there's just, like, no substance. And so we're looking for something. We're like, what's the purpose of this life? Like, what's the point of going to church if we're, like, getting there late, leaving early, sitting in the back? And I'm just serving in children's ministry at the time. And just because I have kids, and so I would serve.
It's what you do, yeah.
That's what you do. And I'm like, my husband's like, "Why are we going to church? We need to figure out why." And he's, like, going on his own path of, like, we don't need to be there unless we're, like, like, he's going on his own. The Lord's leading him once again on his own journey, and me on my own journey of what's the purpose of this life. But we're still kind of, at this point in our marriage, we're kind of like tit for tat, roommates, just, not
all that unspoken stuff. Yeah.
Arguing all the time, and I was honestly very disrespectful to him. I didn't respect him, because I blamed a lot of stuff on him. And so I just, I was just really opposite of a Proverbs 31 wife, let's say that. But we're still, like, trying to be good people, and so I start seeking and searching, like, God, I'm serving in children's ministry, and I realize it's just daycare. Like, I'm like, oh, like, it's my job to teach my kids, not the church's. And so I start looking, and I end up coming across a book, and I thought it was for my kids, but it was really for me. And I learned the voice of God, and in that moment, the Lord brought me back to times in my life, and he's like, "That was me, and this was me saying this here." And it was like,
oh,
I
my
was
goodness.
seeing the different voices that were in my head and whose they were. And so he brought me back to that night when I had snuck out, and he showed me what happened. He showed me where he was, and it was like, wow, God, you're like, it wasn't like, how did you let that happen to me? It was like, no, you gave me free will, but you were there, and you didn't leave me. You were there. And so he just opened me up and just healed that area of my life. And then he walked me through, just like other things of my addiction. And he showed me that was him in the garage that day, and he was always pursuing me. He was always there. He's always pursuing us, you know. And so he doesn't hold it against us. He doesn't. He's just so kind and loving. And so so he walked me through so many things, all because his voice was opened up in my head, and I knew it was in that moment I began a relationship with him. And I was able, that's when it shifted for me. I was like able to, and so he, you know, he just began walking me through these different things in my life. And so he also showed me that I honestly thought Josh was heartless, if I'm going to be real, because he didn't ever want to talk about it. And I'm like, oh, he's so heartless. It didn't even affect him. It's nothing to him. But honestly, it was so painful.
It broke
he couldn't
him.
Think about it.
Yeah.
Yes. It was easier to pretend it didn't happen for him.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, that's just different than male people, but it
yeah.
just
yeah.
really painful.
Yeah.
And we'll have to share the story together.
Oh, I would love that. Yeah.
But
yeah.
Perspective. And so the Lord walked, and that once again was on the same day. He's walking me through this experience that day in the clinic, and all the forgiveness who I need to forgive and what I need to, you know, and he's walking Josh through at the same time. Everything
on the same day.
Yeah.
Wow. You know, Naci, can we take a break here? And we'll come back and we're going to do a part 2. Okay. And maybe we can start with that, that day of walking you both through this at the same time, and then hear what has happened to you guys since and what's going on now. Would that be okay? Okay, so this is Naci Littlejohn, and I just want to thank you so much for being so courageous to share this story. I'm so honored. And we will come right back with another edition of Broken and Brilliant.
Thank you for having me.
You bet. Okay, let me just